Hello, I'm Dr. Ruth Roberts, your pet's ally. Hope all is well and that you're having a great day. So, several of you have been asking, and I went over this in the Crock Pet course, but several of you have been asking, well, how do I find the recordings? And one way to do this is to simply go to the website and sign in, and then go to the course area, and that will take you here. You go into the iPet'sAlly course, and hopefully this will be a little faster because the internet was unhappy. And you go down to these iPet'sAlly Q&A videos, and again, we've got some catching up to do because the website has been so hinky, for lack of a better description. And there we go. So what you can do is just click on one that you wanted to catch, and we'll be putting some other keywords in here too so that you'll know kind of what each topic was about. But again, you know, we've got the transcript in here, and hey Susan, good to see you. And then a link to the video, which will have closed captions. You can download the transcript, and you can also download an audio file. And then we've got the questions kind of separated out so that you can, so sorry to hear that, so that you can see kind of what's going on in each of these topics. The other thing we'll get included in here are links that are mentioned in the video. So I hope that is helpful. The other thing that's in this members area is several things. One is the protocols. You know, we've got some of them listed out by sort of the topic as far as aging gracefully, travel with pets, things of that nature. So there's a ton of videos in here. And then also the dosing instructions for the individual supplements. And so you can just click on a supplement, and so the Coriolis extract, and it'll tell you exactly how much you should be giving for the weight of your pet. So that's what I've got there for you. Susan, I'm so sorry to hear Abner's having problems. And so he turned 14th on Valentine's Day. That's kind of stinky that he's got that watery diarrhea. So let's see. And I'm not sure what you're doing to support him before I launch into the other questions we've got. But this may be, you know, where you need to turn the pred dose up and also look at other options. You know, unfortunately, with chronic bowel disease, it can turn into cancer, as you saw with Nina's pup. So kind of wrap your head around that as far as where you would want to go for treatment and things of that nature. And if you want just to do palliative care, then let me know and I can help you with that too. So here are the questions we've got. Kathy is asking about Daisy and Dottie, and they've been on the 2-a-day vitamin and mineral supplement, and up in the metro. So definitely up the prednisone. I think that's going to provide you more and upping the pred. Sorry, I didn't quite have that all in there. Even if you're not getting anywhere within 48 hours, then I would definitely go back and see your vet and get that checked out and see what other options are out there. So Daisy and Dottie are still eating grass but not throwing up. Yeah, so Kathy, it's going to take a little while to get things turned around, but it sounds like that things are starting to get there. The smoked bison bones, I would not use those because they tend to have more issues with kind of bacterial contamination. The raw ones, if they've been frozen, that's perfect. And if they're really, really aggressive chewers, so what we found with Mona is that she actually wore all of her incisors down. So what I would do is definitely, if they're really starting to do a number on their incisors. Hopefully they're chewing with the molars instead of the incisors. Maybe limit them to 10, 15 minutes a day, or divide that up into 2 or 3 times so that they're not getting hurt. And the video, I think what I talked about was just using green clay, and that's what I use for my own toothpaste, because I don't like the mint. It kind of messes with my soft tissue. So if their back teeth have some gunk caked on that you can't get scraped off, I would definitely get that checked out. And anesthesia is never without risk, but if the veterinarian that you're using you trust and they've had good success, then I think getting their teeth cleaned up will actually provide a lot of relief as far as preventing the teeth from rotting out and things of that nature. So, and Susan said she made homemade bone broth, but I don't think it agrees with him. And interestingly enough, Susan, bone broth can be a really profound histamine releaser, and so that may be making your symptoms worse. So I think that just like a simple broth that's not, that you cook for maybe 2 hours is probably a better bet. Yeah, so hopefully, Jamie, this works. And May, I think, if you're in our email list, then you get the email. But if you opt out of email, we can't send you emails to remind you about the each episode that each week. So if you want to get back on the email list, then email Hannah and she'll get you signed back up. Just send her your with your email and get your permission to opt back in, and she'll get you squared away. And then again, so I went over how to access the old one, so we're good. And Sri, this is very interesting. I honestly don't know what to tell you, but that's wonderful to hear. So it sounds like she's having indigestion. And the other way you could do it is just break it up by meal so you stay more balanced for the entire day. So, I don't know what to say, but that's wonderful to hear. So, Lolly, the calcium goes with the proteins. So whatever you're feeding. So, theoretically, you could make a big batch of a protein and then another batch of the carbohydrates and veggies, and see what happens. And it sounds like, so why is she looking light and happy on plant day? Because it may be just a lot easier for her to digest. So maybe we need to switch up things to much easier to digest proteins and kind of experiment with what works best for her. Is it fish? Is it chicken? Is it beef? Is it lamb? Then go from there. For most dogs, they really have difficulty being vegetarian or vegan. As far as long term, we'll see some liver enzyme elevation, but I'm wondering if the fat is really, really, really creating some issues for her. So that's the other thing you could try, is a low-fat protein with no additional fat, and add the calcium to that. So keep us posted on that, because I'm interested in how that's working. And so, Sri, this isn't quite right. So you still need to add calcium to the protein that you're cooking, because it balances out what's in the cooked food in the Ziwi peak. but it won't add enough calcium for the other protein you're adding. So try that and see how it goes. Let's see, and here is Handsome Willie having a really good day, and that's great to see. But Jamie's asking about Willie, who unfortunately has that nasty histiocytic sarcoma confirmed, but he's happy, looks way better, he's active, and more chemo in about 3 weeks, on Friday, and it sounds like things are really being well tolerated. And as I mentioned earlier with the Crock-Pot broadcast, I'm going to look into some low methionine diets because that's another option as well, and that way it's easier to keep some weight on. Keto is tough for dogs because the volume of fat that you have to add to keep the energy level up is really quite high. Now, I know your oncology vet was concerned about the liver, but I think that's not really an issue for CBD and THC. So what I would suggest at Friday, I'm sure you're going to get some lab work repeated to make sure everything is okay. Make sure that you get the liver values checked out. And if they're okay, just let him know that, in what you've been able to find out in research is that and in consultation from your alternative med vets, is that really these should not create major issues as far as liver function. Yeah, and it's tough. Golly, it's tough. So, Jamie, I hope that's helpful. And then Susan's asking about... Yeah, and turmeric is a really good option, a high dose of turmeric. Yeah, so you want, aside from the CBC, Jamie, you also want a chemistry panel to look at liver enzymes to make sure where they are. So glad he's at least feeling well for right now. Now Susan's asking how much calcium should they get, and it's not that the dog gets, it's that for every pound of protein you need that you cook, meat protein, you need to add in 666 milligrams of calcium, whether that's calcium citrate or what have you. So that's really what you're feeding to, is to balance the calcium phosphorus ratio in the protein so that it stays normal and bone strength stays normal. And Lolly is asking about how many Facebook groups do I have, and there is two. There's the original Crock-Pot diet, which you are all members of, and then because you are members of iPet'sAlly, you're a member of this group as well. So this is the one where I can answer a lot more questions specific to your pet's health issues. So I hope that makes some sense. It does get a little confusing, but you're in good shape. So I think that is all the questions I've got. Any questions from you all for now? Sorry, I'm a little... So I want to tell you a little bit about this bizarre journey I've been on. So as many of you know, I've been dealing with SIBO, and I think I spoke a little bit about this last week, or maybe I didn't because I was still holding my breath. But many of you know I've been dealing with SIBO for a long time, so since 17, so that's 4 years, and had various dealings with it. I had an episode of food poisoning in December and relapsed and had to go back on Xifaxan, which is the medication they use for humans, and it works sort of similarly to Tylosin as far as it doesn't get absorbed into the gut. And I don't know if you know this or not, but in 2013 I started bodybuilding, and so I was into that, and really that's, targeting my nutrition to focus with that, and weight loss as well, and that's where I started with keto. And so I've been working with physical therapist in Montana remotely, and we've been trying to clean up the last of the sort of the pain issues I've had after the stem cell therapy I had in Park City in September. Bone and joint arthritis stuff got much better, but I'm still having some issues with hip stability and pain. Just want to get that straightened out. So long story short, she asked me to do something called an EMOM, which is an every minute on the minute. So for about 20 minutes, you do a minute of squats or a minute of deadlifts, and then in between, you do a minute of cardiovascular work. And so I told her, God, it just wiped me out. It's just, 20 minutes of fairly intensive exercise it is, but it just annihilated me for the whole next day. And she said, well, how much are you eating? And I said, well, I'm eating about 1,400, 1,500 calories a day. And she said, and you're biking 30 to 60 minutes a day, and you just told me you're doing over 100 push-ups, and these were on the knee push-ups at the time. And I said, yeah. She said, have you heard of relative energy deficiency? And I'm like, no. She said, you should be eating at least 1,800 to 2,000 calories a day. And I'm like, oh. So, long story short, she made a referral to a registered dietitian who has dealt with a lot of people with GI disorders and eating disorders too. So, bodybuilding is not for the faint of heart, because there's a lot of weird, very restrictive things about eating there. So you have to kind of get your head right before you get into it. And for me, I was trying to lose that in 2013 when I started. I was trying to lose, 24 pounds. Yeah, so I talked to this woman, and she's like, you need to be eating probably 2,200, 2,500 calories a day for all the energy you're putting out. Well, I got to tell you, this was, short of hearing I needed to go off Xifaxan 2 years ago, which I eventually did. That was frightening, really, really frightening. And she said, and eat everything, because what's happened is, at this point, I had relapsed so badly, all I could eat was proteins and fats, and even that was creating problems as far as I'd eat something and it would sit in my stomach and not go anywhere, and my belly would balloon up, and it was just horrible. And it was like really, really scary, because I'm already on medication, and I can't eat anything anymore. I can't eat eggs anymore. I can't eat, all this stuff. So she said, just eat everything and enjoy it. And I took a deep breath and cried a little, and at this point, I had reconciled myself to the fact that maybe I've got a partial obstruction, because this is what doctors do. We know too much, and so we scare the crap out of ourselves. And so I just kept breathing and thought to myself, well, if I've made peace with having my abdomen opened up to repair an obstruction, how bad can it be? How much worse can it be than where I am right now, as far as the degree of suffering and misery I'm in just from eating fat and protein? So I took a deep breath and I started eating. And it wasn't altogether hunky-dory. I was still having some bloating, but not any worse than I had, even on that really restricted diet. And I started eating things I hadn't eaten in years, like rice and beans. And finally I could eat eggs again. And I could eat some eggplant again. And all these foods I hadn't been able to eat because my body was so shut down. And so, long story short, this week I made the choice to come off of Xifaxan, and it's been a little bit bumpy ride, which is why I'm spacey and a little bit stupid today. But I just started eating, and it was kept eating, I should say. And it's not all hunky-dory. I'm still getting some joint pain because my joints swell up when my gut's miserable, my brain fogs up. But it's just, I took a deep breath and just started eating more and more. And after a couple of days, all of a sudden I was ravenous and eating like I hadn't, since I was 20, and I really was a farm hand. So, Susan, I'm sorry you're having to struggle with this too, but it really makes me wonder, what we create when we become so restrictive in what we eat and don't eat, and also for our pets. And so this is something I've been puzzling on for a little bit, and if you've got thoughts on it, I'd love to hear your thoughts. So, Susan, if you've worked with a dietitian and not been very impressed, I'm happy to pass on the woman I worked with in Montana, Kim's information, because she really was very gentle and helped push me into a whole different space. So I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I think probably, if this works, coming off of Xifaxan the way it worked, just starting to eat these other foods in about another 2 weeks, my inflammation level should be back down to the point where I'm not painful in my feet, my hands, and joints. And I'm back up to 100 full push-ups. I was doing, bent knee push-ups before and working towards 175 a day. So that's what I know. So I'm puzzling through this. I would love to hear what you think about how that might affect for your pets as well. And that's what I got for you today. So on that note, I will get you some more information next week about low methionine diets and what that might look like, Jamie, and hopefully that would be helpful for Willie. And we'll go from there. So until next week, take good care. Remember, your pet's best health starts in the bowl. And give everybody a big hug and a kiss for me. Thanks.